In the last segment, we looked at a sample of valid forms of syllogistic argument. Now let's try to apply our most reliable test for validity to syllogistic arguments. An argument can be considered to be valid when it has a form which validates the conclusion. Look at this argument. No Peloponnesians are Euboeans. Second premise, all Spartans are Peloponnesians. Conclusion, therefore, no Spartans are Euboeans. In this syllogistic argument, we can extrapolate the form. Namely, no P are E, all S are P, so no S are E. As you can see, this is a substitution instance of one of the forms of valid syllogistic argument we looked at in the last lecture segment. And so any argument with this form will be valid. Keep in mind that it's possible for a valid argument to have false premises, as this argument demonstrates. Premise 1, all apples are oranges. Premise 2, all bananas are apples. Conclusion, therefore, all bananas are oranges. But check out the form. All A are O, all B are A, therefore all B are O. This has a valid form, and therefore we would accept it as being valid. So let's try to sum up a few insights about validity and invalidity. First, validity is entirely a matter of argument form. Second, any argument that has a valid argument form will be considered valid. And third, any argument with an invalid form has to be invalid. So if we challenge an argument's validity, we are, ipso facto, challenging its form. And that means that if the premises of an argument with a certain form could be true and its conclusion still false, then we know that the argument has an invalid form. And this leads to a third way of testing for validity, the so-called method of counterexample. Take a look at bullet 3. To prove that an argument is invalid, you can use the method of counterexample, where you can imagine a possible instance of true premises together with a false conclusion. Of course, keep in mind that just because an argument is invalid doesn't mean it's worthless. It might still be a useful inductive argument. If we've ascertained that an argument is valid, that just means it has a form that makes it impossible for its premises to be true and its conclusion false. But if we're going to accept the argument, we still have to determine whether its premises are true. And that introduces the concept of soundness, about which we shall presently be speaking. So what can we put in the bank? What is the cash value of validity? A valid argument must have a true conclusion if its premises are also true. It's impossible for its conclusion to be false. And in an invalid argument, it's possible for the premises to be true and the conclusion false, which is never the case in a valid argument. So let's take a look at some tips for evaluating arguments. First of all, just because you don't agree with the conclusion of an argument, that doesn't mean that the reasoning is therefore bad or specious. Second, concentrate on the argument's form and its premises. Ask yourself, is the form acceptable? And secondly, are the premises really factually true? Third, don't dismiss an argument by saying, oh, that's just your opinion. Finally, if all you know is whether an argument's form is valid or invalid, then you haven't yet ascertained the truth values of its premises and conclusion. This concludes segment 8 of this multi-part lecture. Please continue to segment 9.